went on a date last night. It's been a while since we've gone on a date.
I thought you were going to say with someone else. Or someone new now. Which there could be. I mean, I don't know how you live your life.
It's true. I could be that guy, but I'm not that guy. Went to DeLuca's. It's one of those places where you're absolutely going to need a box.
It's Italian, right?
Yeah. So we went there, and I was like, God, I feel like I'm in The Godfather. Then we had to go home and immediately watch The Godfather.
Oh, you did?
And
you jumped on The Godfather?
Yeah.
Huh?
We stayed up until like 12:40 watching The Godfather. Such a good movie.
Did you get through it?
Yeah, got through it. I was shocked.
Yeah, we should do that next then. You already watched the first one.
I've been dying to watch the Coda, and I haven't watched it.
Oh, the Coda version, yeah, right.
And because I mean, that's the only one that you seem to be able to. I'm sure you could still get Godfather Part 3, but like in all the bundles, they bundle the Coda now.
I see.
Because I own Part 3.
Who doesn't?
I owned Part 1 and 2 forever. And then I finally bought Part 3. But they're also just all on HBO Max, which is nice. Same with the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's handy. And why not?
Yeah.
Some movies that we've watched, you got to buy. And that just seems weird to me. Like, they're not that great. Why are they making us purchase these things?
I almost bought the Ninja Turtles, and I was like, I'm just probably not going to watch these again for years. I'm not going to bother.
That's just my thing about, I mean, I know you buy movies, and that's what you collect, so that's perfectly fine, but I just don't see me watching a movie more than once if it's not one of my absolute favorites, and if it's an absolute favorite, I usually own it already.
Yeah, I have a weird addiction to buying movies. The collection isn't even that big.
I mean, I buy music, but I listen to it again all the time. So,
have you listened to every album you've ever bought?
Probably. But there may be a couple.
There's not like a CD still in the container.
Yeah, there's probably a couple. I mean, how could you not? I probably have. I'm just guessing, but I probably have like 600 CDs or whatever. So there could be one or two there that aren't very good, or I don't think they're good, and I just haven't. There's got to be something in you that tells you this is the right time to listen to this thing. Like you got to be in the right mood. So there's some that maybe I've just never encountered that mood before, and also sometimes people give you things. Like my sisters would give me stuff. You gotta listen to this, but I don't come at things that way. Like I don't just say like, okay, sure. Like I have to be the one to initiate it. I have to be the one to be like, I really want to listen to this now, because otherwise it's just not gonna work.
It's absolutely true.
It's probably telling like you got to watch a movie or a show. It's similar. You just gotta it's hard to force yourself to do it.
There's a new show on Apple TV Plus called Foundation. Mm-hmm. Super famous sci-fi books from Isaac Asimov.
I think I have one of them. I haven't read it.
Yeah,
but I have.
I've got a couple of them as well, and really? I've never read it. Carl suggested I pick them up.
Yeah. Is it Asimov? Or I thought it was Robert Heinlein. Maybe that's something else. He's not as well known, but it's
the Foundation is Asimov.
I gotta look. Hold on. It's on the back side of my book.
Asimov's really famous for two things, The Foundation and then I, Robot, his collection of short stories about robots. And those were the two things he worked on, and eventually he got sick of doing The Foundation, but his publishers were like, do it. And then eventually he started merging them together, which is weird.
Didn't he? Well, he did Blade Runner, right? Asimov? No, that's Dick.
I think that's
Dick.
Yes.
Never mind.
That's
Sorry.
Dick.
I have a Robert Heinlein book, who's another well-known sci-fi writer. If you read sci-fi, then you would know his name, called Stranger in a Strange Land. And it's his big epic. Like, he wrote 5 or 6 of those books, similar to the way Asimov wrote Foundation, I guess. So that's what I was thinking of. So I do not have the Foundation books.
So Asimov is the guy that wrote the 3 laws of robotics.
Yes,
like
right.
A robot cannot harm a human or through inaction or cause a human to be harmed. A robot must obey a human unless it violates the first rule.
Right.
And then a robot must continue to protect itself unless it violates the first 2 rules.
Yeah.
Look, it's pretty. And then his robot work just is built around testing those theories.
I like I, Robot, the movie with Will Smith, but it unfortunately, like the production design and the animation doesn't hold up.
Yep, I don't like those robots.
If they were able to do it in a way that made it hold up, it would still be considered a great sci-fi movie. But now it's just kind of considered a good action film. You don't have to think much about.
Yeah, I own that movie, I think, and yeah, it was good.
It was Alex Proyas who directed it. Remember, from The Crow and Dark City. It was probably the last high-profile thing he did. He went on to do a movie with Nick Cage called Knowing. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you
never saw it.
But... Oh, yeah. It just ended so strangely. But that was really the last
thing
he did.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched a lot of Nick Cage movies. Those are the ones I usually find myself.
He's having such a renaissance, and I'm way behind the ball. Like, have you seen Pig yet?
No, I haven't. But he did a movie called, like, Joe 4 or 5 years ago, and that was his other renaissance. And then before that, when he was doing crap, he all of a sudden did Adaptation. So, like, he keeps popping up with renaissances. He's the guy that has had multiple. So I think people just kind of forget that he was a big deal 5 years ago. And frankly, he does bad movies sometimes, but he's never really gone away. So
he's having a renaissance of weirdness. I want to run through this real quick. Okay, he's been having a renaissance for a little while.
I just think he always comes up every 5 years with a really good movie. So he's not like McConaughey, who really did get stuck just doing romantic comedies and nobody cared.
So he made in 2017 where the kids all, I think that's the one where the kids all get sick. Yes.
I don't know.
The kids all get sick and the kids get a disease where they have to kill their parents.
Weird.
No, the opposite. Parents all get a disease where they have to kill their kids.
Yeah, that seems more like it because Nick Cage seemed like he was like Ash from The Evil Dead with a chainsaw or something. I know so little about this, but that's the image in my head.
I mean, yeah, he does a lot of direct-to-video work. In 2018, he did 4 direct-to-video movies and then 2 voice role movies, one of which, actually both voice works were superheroes. He was in Into the Spider-Verse, and he was in Teen Titans Go, the movie. But the one movie that he did that was theatrical was Mandy.
And
that's that supernatural one where the gangsters take his girl. And then 2019, 5 direct-to-video movies, 1 voice role, and then Color Out of Space.
Yep. That's an H.P. Lovecraft story, and that was actually the return of Richard Stanley, who's the director that was fired famously off of The Island of Dr. Moreau back in the mid-90s with Val Kilmer. There's an awesome, I know we've talked about this before, there's an awesome documentary about Richard Stanley and shooting that movie and what an absolute clusterfuck it was and how he got fired and what it went on to become. It's very interesting. And then he just disappeared for like 20 years. And now all of a sudden he came back and made this movie with Nick Cage, Color Out of Space. I recommend the documentary, though. I can't remember what it's called, but...
2021?
2021.
2021, sir.
Oh, the year.
Willy's Wonderland.
Another weird
Did you see Willy's Wonderland?
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I take it back. Maybe I was watching Nick Cage movies all the time up until maybe 2016. So I really haven't seen anything in the past 5 or 6 years.
And then he also did Pig, which is his John Wick. Somebody kidnaps his pig and he goes on a murder spree to get his pig back. So it's like a hillbilly John Wick, I think.
That's pretty fun.
Sorry. Nicolas Cage tangent. Yeah. All right. Should we get started?
Sure.
All right. Good morning.
Oh, you're talking to me? I thought you were talking to the audience. Good morning.
No, I'm talking to you, you dash. Anyway, good morning to you, the audience. If it's morning, it's morning somewhere.
Yeah, it's morning somewhere.
Welcome, as always, to Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. See, I'm not doing a bit this morning.
That's fine. It's good to take a rest every once
I'm
in a
too
while.
excited for the content that we're doing today.
Finally.
Yeah. I'm Justin.
I'm Aaron.
Today we are talking about the seminal 1990 film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and its sequel, 1991's. Did they poop that out in a year?
Oh, they did.
1991's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
We've been getting request after request. When are you going to do the Teenage Mutant Turtles? When are you going to do the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? This podcast only exists if you do the Teenage Mutant Turtles. We're just inundated with it day in and day out. It's the 2 most popular, famous films probably from our childhood, right?
Yeah, and the weird thing is none of that has been on the internet. It has actually been a letter writing campaign.
Yeah, very strange.
Like we have been getting, I don't even know where they got our addresses, but it's just been mail after mail. The mailman, at least at my apartment complex, is getting pissed.
Right.
So please stop sending us letters. We're doing the Ninja Turtles. Aaron, there's no conversation about the Ninja Turtles without talking about our childhood.
Okay, if I have to open that Pandora's box.
Yep.
Fine.
Show me on this Ninja Turtle doll where he touched you.
I liked Indiana Jones. I liked Back to the Future, of course. I liked Batman, of course. But when it came to toys, there was Ghostbusters. I had a lot of that. There's a little bit of He-Man. I didn't have a lot of He-Man. I had some He-Man. I had absolutely zero G.I. Joe. That was the one thing that I never had. There was a lot of car dinghies maybe I had as well. But more than anything, I had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. At least in the late 80s, it was all about the Turtles for me.
The same here. I was a huge fan of the cartoon. Huge fan. This was the first real toy set that I collected, and it really defined how we became collectors later. Because if you think about it, we tried real hard to have all the Ninja Turtle toys we could. Going through the merchandise, I had so much of it. There's some really rare Ninja Turtle toys now, like Michelangelo in a bodysuit surfing. That's supposed to be one of the rarest ones, and it's like, I had that toy, and I'm sure I made him surf on that surfboard.
And you don't have it anymore.
Oh no. I mean, it's possible I have something somewhere, but they're boxed up, and I have not opened up that at all.
Yeah, I'm not a crazy toy collector. I don't have anything in boxes. I don't buy anything new. I probably haven't bought any of those toys that I loved since my parents bought them for me originally, so I'm not that kind of collector. But I did, for some reason, all of a sudden decide I was done with everything, and I put them all in crates, pretty much. There's a lot of stuff that I know I had, and I don't know where it is. And like I destroyed the Ecto one from Ghostbusters. I don't know why I did that. We broke a lot of things too. We thought that was cool. So that's unfortunate, because I would probably still have that for my kids to play with today. But there are a lot of toys that I pulled out finally now that my kids are a little older, and gave them everything. And like now I'm seeing. So I think I had all 4 Turtles, but I don't have them now. I don't know what happened to Raphael. I think I have a version of Raphael, but I don't have the original, so he's gone. I actually have Michelangelo right here. He's sitting, and he still has a nunchuck. I don't have 2. I got 1.
Him still having the belt is impressive.
The nunchucks are the things that kind of got lost, or the toy.
That color correction is bad, because that looked very red.
It did, but it's orange when you look at me. When I look at it here, I should get them cleaned up. Yeah, remember how these guys stood? Like, what the hell? You couldn't do much with them.
So one of my greatest regrets, is I had the Technodome.
I don't remember that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Like the big set, and I was setting it up, and this is something I think about to this day.
Okay.
Setting it up, and you had to put your own stickers on, and I put the stickers all in the wrong places. Like 6 months later, I was playing with it, and I'm like, I had such regret about not taking the time to put the stickers where they go. Anytime I'm setting up one of my kids' toys now,
you think of the Technodrome.
I always make sure that the stickers go in the exact right spot because of the Technodome. Dome.
Yeah. Technodrome. I don't know. That's funny. Yeah. I don't know. It's not any because of trauma from my past, like you clearly have. But I just have, it's probably an OCD thing where it's hard for me to step back while my kids are putting stickers and things on wrong. But I do hold myself back because they have to do it. They got to do it. But it does happen often where they're just like flippantly, oh yeah, that goes on, and they'll just throw it on, and you're just like, no, you gotta. All right, no, it's good. It's good.
My daughter yells at me a lot. We have a great relationship, and she knows she can yell at me when
my kids
I'm being
yell at me
overbearing
all the time, and we love each other. What do you know?
And so I do this still. She would be like, "Dad, I know, I've got it," and yeah, it's totally a thing. So anyway, toys were a huge seminal moment in my life, and they really kind of continue to this day. Switching back to the Turtles, I want to go through a quick timeline for everyone of where the Turtles came from and the background a little bit before we hit the movies.
Yeah, because it's fascinating to me. I always like the Turtle history.
So the Turtles were created by a comic book writer-artist team of Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. And the comics came out in 1984 when I was 2.
I had no idea about the comics.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about the comics when we were that age. So there was a comic line, and in the comics, they were mostly black and white, but when they were color, all the Turtles had the same color bandanas. They were all red. And then they wanted to make toys. They were like, well, you're just a comic book. Nobody gives a shit. Come back to us when you're something. So they sold the TV rights, and the cartoon was born. Ran from 87 to 96. And then from there, the hit movies that we're talking about were born. And then, so the cartoon was over. Then they did a live action series that only lasted 1 year in 1997 called Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation.
Mm-hmm. Which is a pretty good title.
Pretty good title. Had a female turtle, a fifth one added. Even had a tie-in to the Power Rangers in space.
Okay. I had no idea. Crossover.
Yeah, so canonically, the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies exist in the same universe as the Power Rangers. After that, the Turtles go dormant for a little while until a second animated series comes out in 2003, ends in 2009. So the series from the early 2000s marks a turn because this series was actually co-produced by the creators of the comics. The first series wasn't really in their control. It wasn't really their thing, but they just let it be. This one, they had a bit of control over, so it was darker, but it was still child-friendly.
Is that the Nickelodeon one?
No, the Nickelodeon one comes soon. This series is interesting, and I think you'll appreciate this, because the finale in 2009 was a feature-length TV movie called Turtles Forever, which marked the 25th anniversary of the Turtles, and it featured a crossover of the Turtles from that series meeting the Turtles from the original series, who also meet the Turtles from the comic book series.
They were multiverse in it.
How cool. So they brought back the original cartoon ones that we loved, and then the comic book ones were in black and white.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then Nickelodeon, the original creators, they're called Mirage Group, sold the rights, just everything, to Nickelodeon for about $60 million. Nickelodeon put out another show, and they made a couple of movies that were produced by produced by Michael Bay. I had the image in my head that they were bad, and I couldn't remember which reason they were bad.
Yeah, they were bad because they were a little bit obnoxious, like in that Transformers way. He didn't direct them, somebody did, but they were in that Michael Bay style, and their faces were bizarre. That's what really turned people off.
They look weird, but I still want to check them out. I have never seen them.
Yeah. I don't remember. I feel like I saw the second one, but I don't remember anything about it. But you were saying that you want to see Krang, the brain dude.
Yes.
I think he is in the sequel, but I can't remember.
Which would make it so good.
I'm pretty sure he's in it, and that he's in that big robot body thing, and he's in the stomach. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely in Out of the Shadows, that sequel.
I'm not seeing any place to stream the original cartoon, which was the thing that I really wanted to hit up for this episode.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not on HBO or something. It seems like they've got all those shows, like Batman animated series. And
I'm concerned that Nickelodeon didn't get the clear rights for all the past. They just owned the rights going forward. The original cartoon might be stuck in some kind of hell of rights.
You can probably buy
issues.
it, right?
You can buy it, but that was too much of a gamble. I didn't want to watch it and be like, oh, adult me does not like this.
Oh, well, it's how it's going to be. It's just, you can't get
I know.
around that.
I know.
I was doing that with the Ghostbusters show. It's so childish and so corny, like over the top. But Arsenio Hall does Winston's voice, and that's kind of fun.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty awesome.
I can't believe we didn't mention that in the first, when we did our Ghostbusters, or not Ghostbusters, Coming to America podcast, when we were talking about Arsenio Hall's career, that I omitted the fact that he was Winston, because I didn't know that, but it escaped my mind.
Yeah. Arsenio Hall, one of America's greatest actors. That's not even a joke.
Sounds funny to say that.
All of this success, the Turtles have never gone away, and I give that a lot of credit. He's 7 now. My 7-year-old nephew is a huge Turtles fan.
Oh, nice. Really?
Yeah. And I just bought, the reason that this came up and we're covering this is I was at a garage sale, and there was a Ninja Turtle backpack full of Ninja Turtle toys, and for the majority of which were from the crappy new movies that I haven't seen, so they might be good. But it rekindled all of this passion and made me want to watch these.
Why do you think they've never gone away? Like, a lot of things that we watched when we were kids are still talked about and around, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles seems like the only thing that's had like new reinventions of it. You know, it's not just like Back to the Future where we just talk about Back to the Future every year and everybody still loves it. But there's nothing new about Back to the Future. They haven't made anything Back to the Future since that little cartoon they had in the early 90s. Like, that's it. But Turtles always gets reinvented, and then it's like a feature film again. Like, what is about the Turtles that sticks around?
It's because they are one of the earliest and most successful comic book movie franchises.
Toy line.
And
comic book, movie, toy line, TV show franchises.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
People overlook this, but I think it's Superman, Batman, and then the Turtles. Those were the things that really kicked off the superhero world. Even though it was aimed at kids, this is also our culture just regurgitating everything but that they love. This is one of those beloved things. Like, if you're between the ages of, what do you think, 36 and 42, chances are you were some kind of Turtle fan.
And I also think that this is a prime example of, you can't force a success. It just happens. And with Laird and Eastman, when they came up with these guys, they were just goofing around. One of them just drew Ninja Turtles, and then I think the other person was just like, "Oh, that'd be funny." And then he drew like Splinter, like, "Oh," and they have this sensei who's like a rat, and that's the whole genesis of it. It just came from these guys thinking it'd be funny to see turtles wear ninja masks and shit, and then all that success comes from that, where if you sat down and tried to like figure out what kids like and blah 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 blah, it wouldn't be this successful. It's just one of those things that happened by accident.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
And they were also inspired by Daredevil. That's why their foot. Did you know that? Because Daredevil, the comic character, his people are the hand.
Was the hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why they're the foot. So that was fun. Because they were fans of Frank Miller's take on Daredevil in the 70s and stuff, in the early 80s. I always like that factoid.
That is a good factoid. So with Splinter, it's also important to point out, in the movies, Splinter is a rat who is the pet of a
Yoshi,
Japanese ninja guy. And in the cartoon that people are more familiar with, he was Hamato Yoshi's himself.
Yes,
who was mutated into a rat.
Yeah. But why was he mutated into a rat? I don't remember that. Was he bitten by a rat or something, like Spider-Man?
He might have just been next to a rat at the time. And
I wonder why the mutant Jin was like, "You're going to be a rat now." But the turtles were always baby turtles, and they just got big and intelligent. Right, yeah.
And that's why the cartoon was such a good take on the battle between Splinter and Shredder, because they were directly their enemies from before he was a rat. Now it's just, "Oh, you are the pets of the dead guy the guy that I killed. Now I'm going to kill you, you big mutant rat." Yeah.
But it's from his past, and he left him disfigured. You know, we can get into this.
They make a movie, and it is pretty good.
Is this how you want to start out talking about? Why don't we go back to that thing before I interrupted you? Where you're like, okay, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 came out in 1990, but why don't you start that way?
Now onto the movie. This is a big hit cartoon, but a small production company. Is that the best way to call it? I think it's a foreign production company. Has the rights, and they put up $13 million and make a Ninja Turtle movie. Mm-hmm. They go with Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Jim Henson is still alive in 1990, and he designs these iconic outfits, and I think they're amazing.
And the animatronics and the faces and everything, and he has a whole team of animators. You know, one person would handle the eyes, one person would handle the mouth. Yeah, it was quality. That's what Jim Henson brought to the table.
Yeah, it's just a marvel. And they did it on this super low budget, and not to skip ahead, but huge, crazy hit. At the time, it was, what was it, Aaron? Its ranking in the best independent films of all time?
It was the most successful independent film up until the Blair Witch Project in 1999.
Most successful independent film of all time at the time, making $202 million at the box office worldwide, which is just absolutely insane.
All of the popular studios turned down distribution on it because they just didn't think, they knew the cartoon was a hit and the toys were a hit, but they just, for some reason, were like, the movie's probably just going to be a bomb. But they were worried about Master of the Universe because they had bet everything on Master of the Universe as well, and that was a big flop. But that wasn't that great of a film. That's the problem.
That's a classic, Aaron.
It's a classic, but they strayed too far from the He-Man cartoon, and I think that's what pissed
went
kids
crazy.
off. Yeah, and they just didn't understand. You know, kids did not see Dolph Lundgren as Adam, and they just didn't. You didn't get that anyway. Obviously, we can get into that later if you want. But there was a small production company which was most famous for, or a distribution company that was most famous for putting out the Nightmare on Elm Street films and a couple other B-movie and horror films called New Line Cinema. And they came around and were like, we can handle it. And I think the Turtles is what really made that company at the time. Like, it was a massive hit and a good decision on their part to pick it up and distribute it.
It's so funny how random it is, what's going to be popular or not. But any parent probably would have been able to tell them, yeah, distribute this movie.
Yeah.
Because I have to take my kids already. It's ridiculous. Let's run through the plot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this movie opens with a title card saying Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the thing that I like is they lifted it directly from the cartoon.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't fit, but that's okay.
It doesn't fit, and it's just delightful. They're just calling their shot. The thing that struck me about this movie and the sequel is, good God, New York is beautiful. They do such a good job of capturing that 80s New York vibe that we see it in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's the other one that I love, 80s New York, because of Ghostbusters and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those are really the only two I can think of. I'm sure there's more. Like, it
just shows the city is dark and gritty and full of colorful characters. Mm-hmm. I love it.
There's something about that magic time before the phones. It was just like there was people with newspapers in hands, people watching where they're going, crossing the streets, gray Oldsmobile type vehicles that we all had, the big freaking boats. It was just something about all that together, and then there's the bad hair that women had. It just worked for me. That's like if I always said, like, I just want my films to look like Ghostbusters. Like, if I could always make movies that look like 80s New York, I'd be totally happy. That'd be the world I want to live in.
Oh my God, that would be incredible. We start this. Who gets their purse stolen?
April.
April gets her purse stolen?
Well, yeah, so April O'Neil's a reporter, and she's really on this story about the Japanese gang, like a Yakuza that has moved into New York and is causing all this trouble. They're recruiting young men to rob the place, right? So she's on this story, and she keeps badgering the police about it, but the police don't want to give it any credibility, I guess. So they're always like blowing her off. But they are the Foot is just aware of April causing them trouble.
Yes, they're not happy with their coverage, and so they're not happy
with it. So then they go after her in the subway and like try to steal her purse and stuff, right?
And Raphael comes to her aid, and she's knocked unconscious, and Raphael takes her to the lair where she meets all the turtles.
And that's where Splinter explains how they all came about. So you kind of get all that info pretty quick off the beginning.
And Splinter is a giant rat.
We talked about it, right? Yeah, he had a Japanese master, Yoshi, and he was a rat that was his pet, but he was an intelligent rat, so he would watch Yoshi practice martial arts, and that's how Splinter picked it all up.
It's very different from the cartoon, like we talked about, and yep. I don't like it quite as much, but I'll go with
really?
it.
Okay. I don't remember what I thought of first. Like, I guess I never had a beef with either. Maybe it never occurred to me as a child, but clearly I watched the cartoon first, so I knew. And there's that image in my head of him, the aura, like, and he becomes a rat, so I knew that he was a guy that became a rat. I feel like that might have been in the opening credits or something. I just remember there's this vision in my head, and I see it. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't bother me.
Let's take a pause right here to talk about the turtles themselves. 4 turtles, all of them named after ancient artists. Ancient? Old? Something.
Famous.
So we have Leonardo, who is he the leader or the unspoken leader?
Unspoken leader.
Yeah. So Leonardo, who's in blue, he's down with what Splinter is teaching, but he's also still a goofy kid. These are teenagers. They're all 15 years old. And then we have Donatello, the purple one, who's my personal favorite. He is the brainy guy. Then we have Raphael in red, and he is... In this movie, I don't think he was like that in the cartoon, but correct me if I'm wrong. In this movie, they make him brooding and dark and full of angst.
Sort of the bad boy. More brooding than bad boy.
And then we have Michelangelo, everybody's favorite, the lighthearted party boy.
Donatello was your favorite? I liked Raphael. I think that was my actual favorite. And I don't know, it might have been because of the movie. I think he was my favorite because he just seemed to have the most character development, the most going on in his story.
In the movie, he did for sure, yeah. I loved Donatello so much that I had to have a lot of surgeries as a kid and I had to have surgery on my leg, and they let me take my Donatello action figure with me into surgery. And when I got out of surgery, they had actually wrapped up his leg in the same spot where I had gotten my surgery at.
That's pretty funny.
And so it was, and I think I still have that exact Donatello somewhere, but I think in a box.
But they could have left out the actual stitches that they put into the actual toy and the blood. Which is bizarre, right? They really wanted to do it up. There's a little bit of blood on it.
Yeah. It was a little gross. I don't think it was sanitary. My parents were a little pissed.
A little package of painkillers tucked into his little belt.
And his bow staff was missing.
Doctor, there's other children we need to attend to today. You kind of run us. No, just a second. This will be funny. Give me a little bag. Put some painkillers in there.
Break them up. Break those little pills up. So the Foot Clan is trailing April. And the Turtles, they have this big fight at April's house.
Well, before that, Raphael brings April to the sewer, right? That's how she meets everybody. That's how they learn. And then they take her back home, where they, for some reason, spend the night there. I guess it's too late to get back home. And then Danny, who is the son of her boss, Charles.
Oh, I forgot about Danny. Yes.
He's a juvenile delinquent. He is messed up with the Foot Clan, although he doesn't want to tell anybody about it. His dad just doesn't know what to do with Danny. But Danny and April seem to get along. So for some reason, Charles, her boss, is always coming over to her place to yell at her, complain or something. I think he really likes her. He just doesn't know how to tell her because he's the boss. It'd be inappropriate. But he's bringing Danny over, and that's where Danny knows that he saw something weird at her apartment, that he knows those are the Turtles or whatever he's heard about in the news or something. And then he's the one that goes and tells the Foot Clan that the Turtles are there, and that's why they attack Raphael on the roof of her place.
Okay, yep.
We also met Casey Jones and met Raphael and helped him. Raphael had it all under control. He was trying to stop this petty crime, and then Casey Jones and him had a big fight, just misunderstanding.
And Raphael gets his ass handed to him by the Foot Clan, and the building starts on fire, and they have to run away. They have no choice. And they run away to an old farmhouse that's owned by April's family?
An abandoned farmhouse. Yeah. We'll see that again in Ghostbusters Afterlife, right? People just have old farmhouses out somewhere.
And it's a great segment of the movie.
Well, taking them out of New York was such a strange thing to do with these turtles, and yet it gave you time to like get to know them a little better and see them as kids that just want to be accepted. I guess that's how I felt about it.
Do you know what I figured out while watching this movie?
What?
That The Dark Knight Rises is a loose remake of this film.
That's what I'm saying. There's been a number of this kind of things that we have seen. I don't know if this started it, but this is definitely one of the first in my mind where you have to go away to a safe house and retreat and get yourself back
Recoup, and then come back stronger than ever to take out the enemy. Like,
exactly.
This is totally The Dark Knight Rises.
This may be like an old kung fu movie trope, possibly. Maybe this is something
I'm sure
they've done since the 60s or whatever.
And it's a good trope. People should keep doing it.
Yeah, I love it.
Because, the visual differences between that beginning part of the movie and the city and the everything, and then switching to this quiet countryside where there's no villains and the heroes are safe. You just get to take that breath and relax.
And it's fun to see those costumes and those animatronics in the fields. I don't know. It was just, to me, that was what was fun in an old house.
So if you guys are watching this movie or rewatching it for the first time in years, pay attention to their necks, because this is the one point where you can clearly see the line in the suit where they put the heads on. And there's a very clear line throughout it.
Well, they got really chicken necks. Their skin's like really, they look like old men. They have old men necks.
Fun fact, Raphael's voice actor, Raphael, was played by Josh, I don't know how to say that last name, Pius? Pie? He was the Pius.
Yeah,
and we'll see. Anyway, he was not only Raphael's voice, but he was also actually the actor in the suit.
He's the only one that acted it and supplied the voice. You're right. Yeah, and Corey Feldman was probably the only famous voice who did Donatello,
except the most famous voice, which was Splinter's.
Okay,
and that is by Kevin Clash, who is most famous for doing Elmo for 28 years. He did Elmo.
Yeah,
he wasn't the first, but he was the most famous.
With that guy, though, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, something happened.
Something happened with Kevin Clash?
Yeah, let's just
shit.
Let's take a moment here just because I'm pretty sure he had some sexual thing pop up.
Oh, he had to resign. No, son of a bitch. I'm just going to read the Wikipedia entry in a true crime voice.
Okay.
In November 2012, 23-year-old Sheldon Stevens alleged that he had been in a sexual relationship with Clash that began with Stevens when Stevens was 16. Sesame Workshop had initially been presented with the allegations in June, and its investigation found the allegation to be unsubstantiated. Clash acknowledged that he had been in a relationship with the accuser. However, he said the relationship was between consenting adults. Stevens later recanted his accusation, but 2 weeks later, another accuser, Cecil Singleton, made similar accusations, and lawsuits were filed by attorney Jeffrey Herman against Clash. Clash resigned from the Sesame Workshop on November 20th, 2012, and released a statement saying, "Personal matters have diverted attention away from..."
Okay, yeah. So,
good. Are we doing the wrong podcast? I like that voice.
I have a voice for radio.
So yeah, we don't have to
Judah
talk about that guy.
April O'Neil, Elias Coates, is Casey Jones, Jay Patterson is Charles Pennington.
Judith Hogue was great in this movie, and I'm sad that she's not April because I think the other April isn't quite as good. Elias Coates has been in so much stuff.
Yep.
It's insane how busy this guy has stayed. He's just one of those background actors. That's just what he is. Shutter Island, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Haunting in Connecticut, Zodiac, Skinwalkers, Collateral Damage. That was a good movie. Gattaca. I just bought Gattaca. I'm very excited to watch it again.
I love Gattaca. It's a good film.
It's a good film. Crash, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 3, Look Who's Talking To.
Huge.
For the last 10 years, he's been doing the Chicago shows as the same character. He was in Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, Chicago Justice. Did you know those shows existed? Because
I know him because I when I go to work, sometimes the roads are the streets have signs on them on the posts that say which Chicago show is shooting where. So just don't park and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. I've never seen anything though actually happening.
That's super awesome, and I'm kind of jealous. I've never seen any cool movie production stuff.
It's mostly the TV shows. It's mostly the Chicago ones. But they're always used in like a restaurant here and there or some office building or something.
We're stupid. So we skipped a very important part. The reason the Turtles are at April's apartment is because the Foot Clan destroyed their house and kidnapped Splinter.
Yes. So how did it go?
Which is kind of important.
Raphael rescued April, took her to the sewer. Splinter explained everything. They took April home. They spent the night. That's when the Foot came and ransacked the sewer and took Splinter. The Turtles
followed the
that
Turtles
morning.
home.
Yes, right. One of them followed when he followed Raphael with April. That's right. So then they spend the night at April's. They come home to find the place destroyed. Splinter's been stolen. They go back to April's and are like, Splinter. Yeah.
Splinter.
So that's why they're staying there. Raphael's all pissed off. He's probably got the best character development just because he is so brooding all the time. And he's just always like showing this side where I'm just a child and Splinter's my father and I don't know how to behave correctly, but I really want to make you proud, but I'm so full of anger. That's Raphael through this whole movie. He goes up on the roof, gets attacked by the Foot Clan. Casey comes to help. Place burns down. They go to the farm. They do a little seance, astral projection or something like that, and talk to Splinter around a campfire. They realize where he is and he's been kidnapped. And then they go back to April's. Is that the point?
So,
but they have the turtle van, which they never turn into the turtle van, unfortunately. But they do have like the VW basis.
Yes, the base of it. Yeah. So they realize this whole time they're recouping, they think Splinter's dead. And when they do this seance and commune with him, they realize that he's alive. So they go back to the city, all healed up and ready to save their master.
Oh, and they go to the sewer again. Yes. And that's where
they
Danny's
find Danny.
Yes.
Yep. He is sick of the Foot Clan. He's been talking to Splinter and he's very conflicted.
So he's the one that's allowing them to figure out where Splinter is to get to the Foot's place, which is like just a hangout place for young, troubled youths to smoke and drink and play video games and stuff like that. And they're just stealing. Like, that's the Foot's plan, I guess, is just to, like, if you can get the kids on our side, slowly we'll take over the world or something. I don't know. Or it'll allow them to control organized crime in the city. Is that what their ultimate goal is?
I mean, yes. I think the idea is that they are branching out from their Japanese criminal roots. It's worth noting that these are supposed to be Japanese characters, and they didn't do a lot of whitewashing. Like,
no.
They actually got a lot of Japanese actors. Oh, I don't know if they were actually Japanese, but Asian actors to fill these roles, and I dug it.
Yeah. Did you get any overtones of racism or anything like that or when you were watching it? I didn't feel it at all, but I read a little bit of people's concerns about that, but it didn't hit me over the head.
I think no, like, and I don't think there was any overt, if that's the right word. Like, there was no intention. They were just using common tropes.
Yeah. Well, there's organized crime in America. There's mobsters. There's gangsters. And we all know, maybe it's just because of movies and TV, but there are Japanese gangs as well. And it's the Yakuza. And so you just use that. And their idea was, well, let's bring them to America. That's fine. They're all bad guys.
Yeah.
I didn't feel there was any jokes on their behalf or anything like that, except April does say when she's about to be attacked, she goes, is my Sony payment late?
Yes.
That was like the only time. And I read that, but it reminded me that she did say that because I was like, did she say Sony? Like, it was the most Japanese thing she could think of in that moment, and that was the line. So maybe that's a little poor taste, but whatever. It's hardly worth making a big deal.
That was a time and a place thing. If you remember, in the 80s, there was a very large anti-buying Asian sentiment. It was really that time when things were starting to get made everywhere else. And back then, all the best technology came from Japan.
That's what I mean. Like, how was there a
China
backlash?
wasn't
I don't remember a backlash against it, because everything great was from Japan. Nintendo.
That was
Sony.
the backlash. It was like, we're not making any of our own stuff, and it's all Japan. Like, and that's
so like
nowadays,
hardcore patriots got angry about it.
Yes.
From America. That's what you're saying.
And,
I don't remember that. That wasn't me. My parents were like, everything Japanese is good.
But it's so funny how that's not a part of the conversation at all, and how a comment like that could be completely misunderstood now, because back then it was a serious question of economics and how American jobs are being lost. And anyway,
so where are we? It says, I think when they're still at the farm, Danny's at the Foot Clan headquarters, and he speaks with Splinter, right?
Yes, he does.
Splinter gives him a little more of the origin, how he was a rat. And he basically talks about Shredder, who's the leader of the Foot Clan. It turns out was his master's arch enemy, and killed his master and his master's girlfriend. And when Splinter was released from the cage, he scratched up and left a scar on Orokusaki. And he thought he was gone forever, but now it turns out he's the Shredder. He's the one that leads the clan, and he's telling Danny, he's just using you. You're not a real family. He doesn't really love you. You need to get out of this place. And that's, I think, what makes Danny go to the sewer, and then he hits up the turtles and then takes them to go rescue Splinter, right? Or Casey Jones and him go rescue Splinter, something like that.
Yes, Casey Jones and him sneak in to rescue Splinter at the same time that the turtles... Where are the turtles going?
I mean, they just end up starting to fight them, like on the streets and stuff, and then they end up on a rooftop.
Yeah, it is on the streets,
Yeah. So they just end up fighting the clan.
Worth noting that the clan are people. They're teenagers. In the TV show, they were robots.
That's right.
Did you remember that? Yes.
Yeah.
And we get this big final fight scene where the turtles they're coming into their own. There's less self-doubt. That meditation at the field, that training really brought them to their peak, and this is when they're finally performing at their top level, and they beat up everybody, even though they still can't beat up Splinter or Shredder. The turtles have this habit of just taking turns like as a competition between the four brothers of trying to be the one to beat them, and they all individually fail. Then Splinter comes.
But before he comes, one of my favorite shots is when all the turtles are convening, like, okay, what are we going to do about this? And Shredder's just in the background, just waiting for them, and he's just kind of walking around like,
It happens a bunch of times.
It's so funny. I love it.
So does that have to do, and I mean, we don't have to over-explain this, but I actually had this feeling of respect for battle and for the pageantry of it almost.
Yeah, I don't think Shredder is going to play dirty.
Yeah.
Like, he's confident in his abilities, and that's why this is how we fight. You can take me one at a time, and it'll be a fair fight, but I'll always beat you.
I'll let you take a timeout. It's fine. I'm going to kick your butt no matter what.
So then Splinter shows up, newly rescued, and then Oroku Saki is revealed to be Shredder, and he understands that Splinter was the little rat that scarred his face, so he runs at him.
And he gets pissed. Yep, with a spear.
And Splinter dispatches him easily with one of Michelangelo's nunchucks, which he picked up somewhere. And then Shredder falls off the roof into a garbage truck.
And then in an act of cold-blooded murder,
yes,
Casey Jones turns on the crushing element of the garbage truck, crushing Shredder alive.
With a simple whoops, which is one of the best parts.
I mean,
whoops, killed a guy.
We don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. Casey Jones is a vigilante running around New York with a hockey mask and a hockey stick, stopping criminals. Yeah. So he's kind of just a sociopath that hooks up with these other vigilantes. It's a fun little universe to live in.
And he tries to just murder Shredder in cold blood. Now, we learned in the sequel he didn't die, so there wasn't really a murder. But to all of our young eyes at the time, wow, that guy just killed him.
Yep.
So there goes Shredder crushed in the dump truck.
And that's pretty much where the movie ends.
Yeah, all the foot, or most of the foot at least, realized that they were just being duped by this Japanese gang, and they should just go home. And Danny reunites with his father, and all is forgiven. And Sam Rockwell, by the way, is one of the most prominent. Yeah, must have been his first movie.
Which I did not. I only read about afterwards. I didn't go back to re-watch it.
I watched it. I remember watching this movie a couple years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Sam Rockwell. Like, it was pretty clear when he was offering the kids cigarettes, which is also something you wouldn't see in a movie nowadays. The drinking and the smoking.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is a movie where the bad guy turns kids by giving them everything that they want. That layer where it's video games and skateboarding and pool, the shiny facade of the organization, that's been done a lot of times in children's literature, and I can't think of what I'm trying to think of, but yeah.
Well, it's an easy plot device, I guess. And kids are that time in their lives if they're not making good choices, and they need strong role models to help them along. So it's easy for movies to make that connection where, like, oh, a strong father figure can come in and give them everything they want, and they will be their unwitting servants and stuff like that, you know.
Casey Jones also spends the entire movie trying to hook up with April O'Neil.
Yeah, but they actually do. So
yeah, they actually do by the end, and they should have brought back the original April for the sequels. I'm mad that they didn't.
She fit the first movie, though, you know, and that was what's good about Judith Hoag. She just fit the kind of, I don't know, she lived in like a horrible apartment. She was just as dirty and beaten down by 80s New York as everyone else was. So like that, her character in that movie fit. But then in the sequel, I don't think she would have fit in the sequel. I think she's not that kind of girl. Like, I think the replacement in the sequel, she actually was more of the cleaner reporter type that the movie kind of portrayed. I don't know. To me, it made sense that both actresses were in their respective versions of April.
The most important part is when we were kids, we had no idea that the actors changed.
Yeah, it might have just happened. We were like, I don't know what's going on, but whatever. There's the turtles. So that's part one.
Yeah, that's part one. If you have any gripes with this movie, do you have any serious gripes?
Well, the soundtrack's pretty awful, but again, I'm sure I didn't notice it when I was a kid, but the music's just god awful. It could be improved with a better soundtrack. I don't know, like even the use of all the slang like cowabunga, radical, and that's like, even then, I'm sure that sounded dated or just not the way kids really talked. So I think that was the biggest gripe, is that they didn't really ever seem like teenagers to me. And it was a little overdone, trying to be like, we're kids.
That's actually a really good point, because I read it somewhere when I was doing my research the origin of the word cowabunga, which is a completely nonsensical word.
But my point is, I don't even think people talked like that back then. I feel like that's more of a surfer, some sort of community would speak like that, but it just wasn't the whole population. It wasn't where I grew up, and this movie didn't make us talk like that.
It originated as from Howdy Doody. It was spoken by, I'm assuming, an Indian character on Howdy Doody called Chief Thunderbird.
Oh.
Thunder Thud. And so it's Cowabunga. So
inappropriate, I'm sure.
Yep. And so it says it became associated with American surfing culture and was revived and standardized in its current spelling by the American cartoon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. One complaint that I have about this movie is that Leonardo can't actually use his swords for anything. He doesn't have anything to cut. He can't cut anything because it's a kid's movie. They should have given him like a robot to be able to destroy, but
that's true.
Throughout this movie, he doesn't actually do anything with his swords.
He does swing him around at least.
Like he swings them.
Yeah, so that's good.
I just don't know what he's doing with them. Donatello, he can use his stick. Michelangelo can swing his things around. Raphael can... I don't think Raphael really used his size that much either. I wish they would have invented something that they could actually use the weapons on that wouldn't have been violent. That's all. That's my one little critique.
Or he could have used the swords in a way that would have helped them get out of a jam or something like that. Or he could have, like the way pirates would stab their knife into a sail and ride it down or something. He should have done something like that.
Or through a door or something. Critical response to the movie was pretty mixed. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. It has a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't think that means much.
Made a lot of money.
Made a ton of money.
It's a goofy film. It's a goofy film. What are you gonna do?
That kind of explains why a rushed out second film that came out a year later might be missing some of the same beats.
And even the filmmakers who made the first one, I feel like they were actually trying to make a real film. That's why it is a little gritty 80s New York, and it just happens to have all this kid stuff in it. Whereas the second movie is strictly a kid's movie.
So a year later, they go ahead and they poop out another sequel because the last movie was such a gigantic hit. They doubled the budget to $25 million. It looks like the box office is $78 million, but that might have only been domestic. I can't tell.
I have it that says 78.6 in the US and Canada, and then 54 worldwide.
But it says rentals, so I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Because with this movie, we started seeing... Is this the one where Pizza Hut went all bonkers? That might have been the first one.
It's hard to believe they came out a year later.
I know.
It seems like it was longer than that to me, because it just felt like such a different film.
Yeah. All right. So a year later, they come out with part 2. We see a lot of changes between the first one and the second one, just right off the top. We have a different April O'Neil, this time played by Paige Turco. Disappointingly, we have a new Raphael, this time voiced by Laurie Faso. And we'll get into this again. In the third movie, we also have another different Raphael, Splinter. The actor from the first movie, who will go unnamed, reprises his role for this one. So we get a lot of crossover, and we still have Jim Henson making the suits. I'm guessing that this is that kind of thing where those props were going to start to deteriorate and they would have had to have rebuilt everything from scratch. Yeah. So they had to really hurry to save money on the suits. Maybe. I don't know.
There was a story I read not too long ago that the Michelangelo costume from the first one was up on eBay. It just was melting. It just was falling apart because that stuff just doesn't last.
And for a lot of people, they might not know that when they build these props, they're not built to survive past production, and
maybe that's why the third wasn't apart. Maybe they just weren't able to use them by the third. Maybe it had been too many years and they just couldn't use them, because I feel like these are probably the same suits, but just maybe they're not. I don't know, but they seem to be colored a little better because they got a little more money. They give them a little more detail in the heads, but I don't know if they're the same suits or not.
One of the common complaints from reviewers was that it in the first movie was filmed so dark that it was hard to tell apart the colors of the masks. And I think I
didn't have that problem.
I did.
Did you?
I was surprised at how much red and orange blended together and the blue and the purple blended together.
But I just felt like their characters were so different from each other. Like they all had a different personality that it was easy for me to know who was who.
Yeah, when they're speaking, you can clearly tell them apart. When they weren't speaking, it was more challenging.
Hey, factoid from the first movie. The guy who was the stunt actor of Michelangelo is the Domino's pizza delivery guy.
I read that, and yes. No, I think they're all in it.
I think you're right. They're all like Foot Clan. Because, I mean, it was a low budget, and we need all the stunt performers we can get. So you're not Raphael right now, so let's get you in here to be one of the Foot Clan. That's what I would have done. Hell, if the director is probably a Foot Clan member.
I would be honored to be a Foot Clan member.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
So the second movie is based off of a script by one of the screenwriters from the first one, Todd Langen. We switched to a different director who does a really good job of keeping the tone of the first movie consistent. We really feel like we're living in the same universe throughout.
Yeah, it picks up like a couple weeks after, probably, right?
Yeah, in that ballpark from
or maybe
days
even days.
to...
Yeah,
I say
that's
days.
How the foot fell. I feel like days too, because when the foot is convenient and they're all like, "Is this all we got left?" I mean, it seems like that wouldn't have been put off. It seems like they all would have like went to a safe house after the cops raided the place. So yeah, it was probably like a day or two later.
Yeah, and well, spoiler alert: Shredder is still alive, and I feel like if it was weeks later, he would have died.
That's a very good point. So yeah, so he climbs out of the garbage where he was dropped off, and apparently he's horribly disfigured again, but I don't know why they did that, why they bothered to do that. I guess because they were like, well, he just got stuffed into a trash compactor. He can't be totally fine. So yeah. I think that's why they just said like, oh my God, his face. Whatever. His face. But anyway, he's more mad than ever about the turtles.
To stick with Shredder for a minute, I want to talk about the theme of this movie. And this is kind of fun because this is just a straight up revenge movie. Shredder doesn't have any goal other than getting revenge on the turtles, and I feel like that sits closer to the themes of the cartoon, a little closer, and it almost had a more cartoony vibe because it's like we're watching the second episode of the cartoon where Shredder's just mad and he wants revenge, and that's it. That's his entire motivation.
Well, I think you're right in that this film feels more like the cartoon to me in many ways, because we were talking about Masters of the Universe. Like, how disappointing was it when they make movies based off of cartoons you love and they just change simple things? Like, why would they change, like, Orko or whatever his name wasn't in Masters of the Universe because they couldn't figure out how to make that little guy fly. So they came up with some bizarre person. And then, like, Man-at-Arms wasn't called Man-at-Arms, I don't think, in the movie. Like, he's some other dude. Like, there's just different dudes for some reason. Although I like Frank Langella as Skeletor, and I liked the way they designed Skeletor in the movie, so that was cool.
I did
but
too.
Like in this movie, like when they made the Turtle movie, like why is Shredder wearing red? That was a strange thing to me. Like, why is he wearing red? So anyway, so in this movie, it's like almost like they correct those things. So now he's in his purple, which is more to the cartoon, and yeah, the way they light the turtles and how it's a brighter film feels more like the Turtles we know from the cartoon.
Let's back it all the way up and go a little more beat for beat. I just want to cover the theme. So we're picking up and the Turtles are crashing at April's because they don't have a house.
Which I love as well, because they didn't have to do that. They could have just had some excuse for them to be back in the sewers, but it brings it so down to earth where it's just like, they got nowhere to live. So even fucking Brat is living in her house and she can't take it because they're so messy. It's so funny.
Yeah, this is a great sequel. Like, they're bridging I really enjoyed that they made that choice. And so it starts with a pizza guy delivering pizza to April's house again. And it's a guy named Kino, and he knows martial arts. Now, he's not in the cartoon, right?
I mean, maybe they put him in it, but I think the show maybe had ended by the time this came out. I wasn't really sure.
I think it ended in 93. Okay, I think so. It was still going, yeah.
Yeah. We meet Kino because he's delivering pizzas, and he notices a robbery taking place. And that's where the Turtles are reintroduced, and then they end up helping him out and kicking ass. So he's familiar with them now, and somehow he puts it together that April is housing them. How does he put that together? I don't remember.
The Turtles took the pizza and left money. And so he's like, okay, so they were watching me because they were waiting for the pizza and they saw me do this.
Yes, because it was right across the street from her apartment is where the robbery was going down. Right. And she always orders pizzas like crazy. Is that he and his boss made note of that, is that this April O'Neil, damn, she eats a lot of pizza.
And it's kind of neat, him going on to this robbery, because it's very reminiscent of the first movie. They're stealing a lot of high-end stuff, and it seems to be some of the Foot Clan guys, but not in the Foot Clan outfits, just continuing to do crimes because they like it.
Well, it's such a good thing to be a villain in a kids movie. That's what I like about it. Because you can have rapes, murders. No, you can't have any of that stuff. So what can kids relate to? Well, they can relate to like wanting electronics and stealing them. So what a perfect bad guy to have, just thieves.
And back then, this stuff that they were stealing was like the most expensive stuff. Nowadays, you could just say they were stealing iPhones and iPads.
Well, it's good to like walk around with a boombox or a VCR or something, or a TV, an old, They're good props. You can carry them around.
So we switch over to the turtles. They're all excited that they got to break up this thing, and they're eating pizza, and they're just interacting at April's house, and they talk about how they have to find a place to live and that they're only going to stay there for another day or two, and they have to move on. But then they're watching April's newscast. Splinter's also there, but they're watching April's newscast, and April is talking about a waste cleanup where this company is doing the right thing and cleaning up all of its waste from years ago.
Techno Global Research Industries. What a beautiful, what a beautiful name of nonsense. Yeah, it was a brownfield site. They apparently dumped all of this toxic chemicals. I'm not really sure what they were supposed to do with it. I don't know, but it was some sort of mutagen. I don't know if were they trying to create what it became, or did they accidentally create it, or did they not realize what they did before they dumped it?
Total accident. He explains later that they accidentally made it and realized that it was doing all this stuff, and they couldn't do anything to fix it at that time, so they just buried it. And 15 years later, they knew how to dispose of it, so they went to dispose of it.
So they're digging it all
She
up.
interviews a guy named Professor Jordan Perry, played by David Warner.
Yeah, love David Warner. He's always up for everything.
Yeah, I was sitting there, and I was like, oh, God, that guy's voice is crazy familiar. This guy has been in everything. What do you know him from the most?
Time Bandits. He was evil in Time Bandits. I don't know if you remember that. And I'm surprised he wasn't. Was he a Doctor Who? How was he not a Doctor Who?
I know, like this guy could have been a Doctor Who. But no,
he was in the Omen, which my dad and I would watch when I was younger. I remember that.
Yeah, he was in the Omen.
What else?
He's been in many things. Yeah. But I'm gonna cherry pick the Omen, Age of Innocence, a remake of 39 Steps.
Tron. He was in Tron, right?
Time Bandits, Tron.
There you go.
He was in Hansel and Gretel in 87. No, he plays their father. I was going to be like, he couldn't have been Hansel. I mean, I guess he could have been Gretel. Here's something fun, because I've been rewatching Star Trek.
Yes.
And I'm on...
Right. Star Trek 2.
No, I'm on Star Trek 5
Star Trek
right
as
now.
Well, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
Number 2. But yes, he was in Star Trek as well a lot.
In Star Trek 5, I think he plays the main bad guy, John Talbot. But then he goes on to be in Star Trek 6 as a completely different person.
And he was also in The Next Generation as another character, too. I remember
Was
that.
he?
He was in one of those episodes, yeah.
He was in the Mouth of Madness. He was in Titanic. He was in Scream 2. So this guy has been... He was in the Planet of the Apes remake. So he's been in just a ton of stuff. In this movie, he plays a kooky scientist that accidentally discovered the ooze that created the Turtles and Splinter.
Yeah, let me take that back. This is definitely the movie I knew him from, because this is the movie that was most of my consciousness as a child. So the first time I saw David Warner has to have been this movie. But the first time I knew him as that actor would be Time Bandits. And then it occurred to me years later, oh my God, he was that scientist that was in the Secret of the Ooze, right?
Splinter immediately realizes that there's something up from their past that has to do with this company.
Splinter fills it in a little more because he has the canister still, so he's able to further expand on their origin a little bit. Not that it really needs it. We kind of know all we need to know is that the Turtles got into this ooze that was somehow in the sewer. One of the canisters got misplaced, right? And it fell in the sewer. I don't know how. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But in this movie, April's cameraman is a spy for the Foot. So he goes to Shredder and tells him about this mutagen. And then Shredder puts it together that I can use that mutagen to create my own monsters that can get revenge, that I can use to kill the turtles. So then they go, while the professor is disposing of the last mutagen, they grab the remaining one and kidnap him. Even though they fight the turtles, they're able to escape with him and the mutagen.
Yep, and Splinter at the same time sends the turtles to figure out what's happening with this company, and they meet up and they fight over the last canister. The Foot Clan uses some smoke bombs to escape.
Always
ninja-wise. Yes. And at this point, Kino's in the mix again, because he knows that the turtles are hanging out with April, and he really aggressively breaks into April's apartment against her will. I feel like April is trying to be cool because she's trying to fend off a potential rape right at this moment.
Yeah.
Where he walks in.
Like to me too. He's just like, hey lady, how's it going? Let me just make myself in here.
Unannounced, and he's just talking to her and she's being really polite, but yeah. And then he notices the turtles and they, for whatever reason, they're cool with it and they tell him everything. And he volunteers to join the Foot Clan undercover.
But they think that's too dangerous. Splinter doesn't let him.
Yep.
But Raphael goes with one of his, he has another hissy fit with the group and Splinter's off again, no pun intended. Right. So when he hooks up with Kino, they go at it on their own.
The turtles set off into the sewers to find a new home. And that's when they split off with Raphael, because Raphael can't keep his shit together ever. And he gets Kino to join up with the Foot Clan.
But I hand it to the filmmakers where they could have dropped his angry, complaining side that was so prominent in the first movie, but they kept it going at least for that much. They wanted him to still continue to be the bad boy. So I appreciate that they didn't outright change all the turtles to just being getting along teenagers just to make it more family friendly.
I go back and forth because, and I mean, we're splitting hairs with these kids movies, but were we supposed to see emotional growth in that first film where they were able to come together at the end and beat those guys? Yeah. Or were they just still mostly the same and Splinter saved their butts?
They were mostly the same. Splinter saved their butts. For as much as they learned, they were still just 15-year-olds. So that's the way I thought of it.
And that's fair.
So they're still just having their petty complaints because they're siblings.
This is true. Okay, so yeah, we split off. We're doing the dual journey. It's a short split. But Raphael and Kino, they get into the Foot, they figure out where the secret lair is, and then they totally get busted, and they kidnap Raphael as bait.
And Raphael learns that Shredder's still alive.
Yes. I thought I saw a ghost, which was a great line. On the other side, the turtles find an abandoned subway
station, like an old underground
subway station. Yes. Yeah. And they make that their home. And they move Splinter down there. For whatever reason, watching these movies, I was sure at some point that Splinter died. And I think it was just trauma from seeing him so beat up in that first movie.
He's such an old man.
I was just always worried that something bad was going to happen to Splinter.
Yeah, he got his ass kicked in that first one. And just like another thing that they changed is that in the first movie, there's a lot of like sweat and not blood, but like enough to make you think it's blood on Splinter. And he just looks so defeated, and the way their eyes are all just like soiled with water and everything. Like, they don't do that so much in this movie. It just looked a little too real life in the first movie.
Turtles find their new house, but then Kino, after Raphael gets trapped, he goes to April's and he warns them that Raphael's been used as bait, and they get ready to go and save him, knowing that it's probably a trap. But in the meantime, the doctor who the Foot Clan kidnapped is helping Shredder create his two mutant monsters.
Yeah, he didn't put up too much of a fight either. He just kind of was just like, I don't want to do it. And Shredder's like, do it. And he's like, okay.
I like it. I feel like that's how I would act. Like, I know I'm, if I don't do what these guys say, I'm going to be killed. So it's like,
yeah. But at the same time, like, I'm also a professor. I do kind of want to see what happens.
Yes.
So, you know,
legitimate curiosity. Yeah. Biggest missed opportunity in the movie, in my personal opinion, not to introduce Bebop and Rocksteady.
But from what I briefly read is that they were owned by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, maybe outright, and they just didn't want them in the movie. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just crazy to me. So what we get instead, so they use a wolf and a snapping turtle to create Shredder's soldiers, Toka and Razor. And they're big mutants like you would expect from the cartoon. Just two big enemies for the turtles.
And now this was a change, and it's one of those changes that probably would have bothered me, but I did like these two, and I loved that they were infants and that they thought Shredder was their mama. That was hilarious to me, and they were just as cool as Bebop and Rocksteady, I thought.
The thing that I did not remember is the scientist says later on, I specifically inhibited their mental growth, so he made them dumb so that they wouldn't be as dangerous. They would have been, in theory, smarter if not for the scientist who was curious, but he was also working against Shredder as his captive.
Well, that's good. That makes me feel better about his...
Yeah, he was a good guy through and through. And so when the turtles come to save Raphael, they know it's a trap, but Shredder's like, haha, it's a trap. And look what I have for you. And they battle these two giant creatures. And you know what? They get their butts handed to them. So they were able to just get Raphael out of there, and they find a sewer and they escape just in time.
But they have the professor with them now, so they were able to rescue him at least.
Yes, they also rescued the professor, and they make their way back to their secret lair where they hatch a plan to unmutate Toka and Razor. And I had forgotten about this until I watched the movie again. They create an anti-mutant jail, which at no point do they say, oh, we should be careful because if we eat this, we'll turn back into just normal turtles. They never cover it. And they stuff this stuff inside of donuts. Yeah. And Shredder sends Toka and Razor out into the streets to just show the turtles how much damage they're going to do. And then they grab April O'Neil the next morning and say, hey, you go tell those turtles that they got to come here, or we're going to send out Toka and Razor again, this time where there's a bunch of people, and they're going to probably kill them. Like, real mean message. And the turtles go, because they're turtles, and they don't want anybody to get hurt.
With their donuts.
With the donuts that are going to turn...
Which is totally goofy in a kid movie, trope. But I loved it. I thought it was hilarious when Michelangelo has the donuts, and they're trying to get them to eat it. Because Shredder's just like, let's see what happens.
Yes, it sets up
stopping them.
Yes, it sets up the next thing that you're talking about, where Shredder let them pause at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
Same thing again, where Shredder's like, all right, do what you're going to do. This is ceremonial. There's a way that you fight. Yep. Even though he's just out for revenge. So they feed them the donuts and they eat them, but then they start burping. Yep. And the burping is stopping the change. And they're kicking their butts, and they throw them into a dance club that is next door to the trap site.
Yep. The whole time that was going on, there was this big dance club going on.
Yep. And inside...
Vanilla freaking
Ice is performing.
I mean, this has got to be the most memorable thing he ever did, and he has been in the public consciousness ever since because of this movie.
No, now isn't he didn't he get like a crazy doctorate and he's like an economist or something crazy? Like, I feel like
I don't know, but he pops up on MTV shows all the time, like Remember the 90s, and he just does things.
So yeah, a famous rapper,
and he freestyles the ninja rap while they dance fight. Pretty cool.
Can you sing it for us?
Go ninja, go ninja, go.
Go ninja, go ninja, go. Yeah, it's great.
And I hate, usually in movies, when they bring in this kind of stuff. But this one, for some reason, never bothered me. I just thought it was... Like, it didn't matter to the plot at all. It just happened to be there, and it was another set piece for them to dance fight, and there you go.
I mean, we have to admit that these movies are getting a lot of childhood credit towards our views. Yeah. And if we were 30 when we saw this for the first time, I don't know if we would have been quite as nice Probably to it.
But they didn't give Vanilla Ice any lines. And that is the important part. They just kept him doing what he was doing. Everybody in the audience stood around. They fought. They ended up beating the animals because they mutated back into the animals that they were, right? The wolf and the snapping turtle.
Yeah, they held them down.
Yeah, because the CO2 thing, the professor was instrumental in saying they need carbon dioxide in order to, because they're burping so much, they need carbon dioxide to help the process along. So they took a fire extinguisher and shoved it in their mouths, and that's how they got it. The anti-mutagen to react.
Shredder, in this moment, bothers me.
Oh, there's one stupid part to the movie, and this is coming up.
Shredder sneaks into this dance club for whatever reason, just for the moment. And then he kicks down a speaker and he's up on the stage and he's like, I'm gonna hurt you now.
I've got one last vial of mutagen, and he has like some girl as a hostage, right?
Yeah. And then Kino runs in and he
kicks it out of his hand.
Yeah, which was just weird.
Yeah.
And then who does the thing? I forget which one.
This is the worst part. Because it's just so, like, the whole movie's crazy, but this is just dumb. Like, it's just a dumb way to get him out of the building, but it's the Marty McFly speaker trick,
yes,
where one of them hits a power cord and the amp's turned up to 11, and it blows Shredder out of the building into the dock.
Yep.
So dumb.
And we don't see it.
Sure.
But Shredder gets covered in the mutagen, or he drinks the mutagen.
I don't know, he drank it. I think he drank it, yeah.
And so the turtles are down there? Did they go down there to try to find him?
They go down there to find out where he is, I guess, right?
Yep.
Or they think it's all done, or something like that. Like, hey, yeah, we did it. I don't remember. But anyway, I remember being in the theater with our friend Doug, and we were watching this movie, and then all of a sudden, a super Shredder appears because he drank the mutagen, and somehow even his costume changed because of it, where he's got freaking, blades sticking out of everywhere. I mean, our minds were like blown. We were like, no way, Super Shredder. We loved it. So
I have memories of loving Super Shredder, and
amazing.
Yes, his costume changes for no reason, and he again is just bent on revenge, and so he's destroying this dock so it collapses on all of them, and he gets to kill the turtles. That's all he cares about at this point, is just killing the turtles. But the turtles are turtles, so they just jump into the water and they're fine.
And he brings the dock down on himself, and then we get to see the hand.
Yep.
So now you know he's dead for sure.
Yeah, because the hand collapsed, yeah.
And then Casey Jones jumps in and goes, whoops!
If Casey Jones had showed up, I don't know why they omitted
for that
him.
Cameo.
Yeah.
I don't know either. They just didn't have a place for him. Which is a smart move, because maybe the writers were thinking, like, we got too many we got Kino now, we got to, like, calm it down a little bit. So they took the right path and were like, we can't use him at the moment. So
the movie is cleaner. Like, there isn't too many people. Turtle shells pop up out of the water because they're turtles, and it's cool.
They're turtles.
And then they go to climb up. You clearly see that none of their heads are wet, because I'm assuming the material shouldn't be too wet.
Electronics in there. But I loved seeing them be turtles too. That was another big part for me as a kid, is that you don't see them get to use their turtle power too much. So, like, it's either the first movie, maybe the second one. I don't know where like their head goes into the first one that goes into the shell. I love that stuff. I ate that stuff up because you just didn't get to see them as turtles too often. And that's it. So Shredder kills himself, and then they are congratulatory, right? And they go back to the sewer and they throw out their slang words, and everything's great again. Yeah, Splinter has another funny joke at the end, which is funny.
Because he says, "I made another funny," but I forget what it was. Yeah.
Oh, well, here's another thing, and I don't know if they follow this up with the third movie, which they definitely don't. Splinter is like, did anyone see you? And they're like, no, we're fine. Nobody saw us. And then he holds up a newspaper, which has them at that club, like they're New York's biggest, hottest thing now.
Yes.
So it's like the end of Spider-Man sequel, the newest one, Far From Home, right? Where like J. Jonah Jameson reveals he's Peter Parker. So what are they going to do for the third movie? Oh my God, the city of New York knows the turtles exist. This is where the third movie is going to go. This is the storyline where they're now they're either fighting to be accepted, or they come out of the sewers in order to join New York, and things, happen from that. But no, they don't go in that route, do they? They go back in time for some reason.
They do not go that route, and yes, they go back in time for some reason. Very frustrating choice that we will pick up on next episode, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. Do you have any final thoughts? Yeah. I like it.
I don't know. I like it.
I think
is it a better film than the first one?
No. I'm a strong first film is the stronger effort. This one's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I have an important final thought from my childhood. Pert Plus looks just like the Ooze from the movie. I used to constantly would waste all of my parents' shampoo filling up little vials of mutagen for my Ninja Turtles to play with.
Dang.
Yeah, so go by
about plus slime. We loved slime back then because even the Ghostbusters had a lot of slime. Like the ghost slime. I don't know. Ooze and slime was big for kids, so they just would that was like another ploy of theirs to be like, oh, we got to put ooze in because kids love ooze.
It's worth noting that they made a separate set of Ninja Turtle action figures for the movies that were almost reskinned versions of the cartoons. Like, they were basically the cartoon toys, but they just looked realer.
Yeah, they were like McFarlane versions, right?
Before
Todd
McFarlane, yeah.
Versions. Yeah, before McFarlane. Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
I think.
Did they make toys? They must have made toys of the Toka and Raza, right?
They had to have, but I don't think I had them.
Those were some awesome suits. Like, it was cool to see a snapping turtle. I loved that they did him as another turtle, but like a badass one.
They made a weird choice with Toka though, or was he the turtle? Razor? Whatever one the wolf was,
yeah,
that didn't look like a wolf. Yeah.
No.
And at the end, he's like a white wolf, like a Siberian.
Yeah, nothing like what he became. Right.
Whatever.
Well, it was fun to revisit these two movies. So we'll be back for the third, Turtles in Time, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. It might actually not have one of those little quotes. The turtles are back in time is all that it says. So it could just be part 3.
I swear it says Turtles in Time.
You can swear all you want because we are a mature podcast.
Wow, that is an excellent poster when they're the samurai. I haven't seen that one before.
You
Holy
like
cow. That is dark as shit.
Yeah.
Ancient Japan, 1593. Without a map, without a clue, without a pizza.
We forgot to talk about
Turtles.
How far in part 2, how far they leaned into the pizza thing.
Oh
my
God.
The beginning of this movie is entirely New Yorkers eating pizza in every shot.
That was super funny, wasn't it?
Every single person was eating pizza. They paid a lot of extras just to eat pizza. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, as always, follow us on the social medias. We're on all of them. Email us, write us a letter, make us join Zoom calls. I don't know, just follow us, listen to our episodes, and stay tuned. Anyway, let's wrap it up. I'm Justin.
I'm Aaron.
Yep, that's you. And this has been Aaron.
I'll always be here for you.
And I'll always be here for you. But this has been Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. And stay tuned next week for us to wrap up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with part 3.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, good talking with you.